One early morning, when the sunlight had not yet fully risen, you sat quietly by the window, listening to the soft rustle of leaves outside, and a question gently appeared in your mind. Who am I truly? Perhaps you have been working hard every day, trying to become a better person, a more successful person, someone who is loved and recognized. Yet, in the midst of the stress and constant striving, have you ever felt like you are wearing a heavy mask? Afraid that if you were to take it off, there would be nothing left, and you would no longer know who you are? Maybe you have felt hurt when someone misunderstood you, angry when judged, or like a failure when things did not go as planned. All these feelings often arise from something deeper, a fear of losing the self you are working so hard to protect. In the teachings of the Buddha, there is a beautiful yet challenging lesson: non-self, anatta. The Buddha said, all phenomena are without a self. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. But how can we understand non-self when, since childhood, we have been taught that we must become someone? How can we let go of this self while still living fully, still loving, still taking care of our family, still contributing to the world? You are not alone in this question. Many who walk the path of practice have felt fear and confusion, thinking that non-self means losing oneself, falling into emptiness or meaninglessness. But dear friend, non-self does not mean losing yourself. It is a door to freedom. Non-self is not about abandoning life. It is about learning to live each breath, each step deeply, without fear, without anger, and without being swept away by the storms of life. You are listening to TT-Buddhism, a space where the profound teachings of the Buddha are shared with the gentle breath of daily life, helping you understand deeply and live deeply in each moment. Today, I invite you to stay until the end of this journey. Together, we will explore the misunderstandings around non-self, look deeply at the fears that have held us back for so long, and gently realize that letting go is not losing, but returning to freedom, returning to yourself with stability and peace. Part 1. Why we fear letting go of the self. Have you ever felt tired of always having to be someone each day? Being the good child, the patient spouse, the responsible parent, the diligent practitioner, the strong and optimistic person everyone expects you to be, while deep inside, there are moments you just wish to take a long breath, put everything down, and no longer need to hold yourself together? Have you ever asked yourself, if there is no self, then who is living this life? If I no longer try to become someone, then how will I live? Dear friend, the fear of letting go of the self is one of the deepest fears we carry. It is not just a fear of loss, but a fear of disappearing, of no longer being loved, of no longer existing in the eyes of others, of becoming worthless. From a very young age, we learn to identify ourselves with the image we create. I am the child my parents are proud of. I am a good student. I am someone responsible. I am someone strong. I am someone who deserves love. We live with the belief that I am and I must, and if one day that image collapses, we no longer know who we are. We fear that if we let go of the self, we will become meaningless, forgotten, unloved, or unseen. This fear is rooted in our deep survival instinct. The human brain is wired to seek stability and control because instability feels like danger, and the self is one of the tools the mind uses to create a sense of control in a world that is always changing. The self is like a floating log we cling to in the vast ocean, believing that by holding onto it, we can remain safe amid the waves of impermanence. Neuroscience explains this through the activity of the default mode network in the brain, a network that constantly creates stories about me, mine, what others think of me. It helps us feel like we exist, that we have an identity to protect, compare, prove, and maintain a sense of security. And when that identity is threatened by criticism, misunderstanding, or failure, we feel as if our very existence is shaking. But can you see that everything is impermanent? This body ages day by day. Emotions come and go like drifting clouds. Thoughts shift like a river that never stops flowing. Everything around us, including our successes and failures, praise and criticism, is beyond our absolute control. It is because we try to protect an unchanging self in a world that is constantly changing that we suffer when things don't go our way, when loved ones leave, when health declines, when failures visit us. We suffer not because the world changes, but because we want it to remain as we wish. Dear friend, the beautiful truth is that you do not need to let go of the self immediately. You do not need to force yourself to become someone without a self. You only need to begin observing, to breathe a little slower, and to smile when you realize that you do not need to hold on so tightly to that image of yourself. You can try something very simple. When someone praises you, take a breath and smile, receiving that praise like a cool breeze. When someone criticizes you, take a breath and smile, receiving that criticism like a cold wind. Cool breeze or cold wind, they all pass. The self that is praised or criticized will also pass. These are the first steps toward freedom. You do not need to disappear to realize non-self. You only need to loosen your grip a little, to stop holding on so tightly to your self-image, allowing life to flow through you naturally, allowing love to be shared without fear, allowing each breath to become a gentle smile. And one day you will realize letting go of the self is not a loss, but a return to the miracle of life that is already here within you, steady, peaceful, and free. Part 2. Understanding non-self through the 5 aggregates. When you hear about non-self, you may wonder, if there is no self, then who is feeling, who is thinking, who is living this life? The Buddha offered us a simple, direct way to look into this by observing the 5 elements that come together to create what we call self. These 5 elements are known as the 5 aggregates: body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Together, they create the sense of a me living in this world. But if you look closely, you will see that each of them is constantly changing and cannot be held onto. Let's begin with the body. Each day, when you look in the mirror, you may notice your hair changing color, your skin aging, your body shifting in shape and strength. Even the cells in your body renew themselves each day. This body is not fixed, so it cannot truly be me. Now, consider feelings. In a single day, you may feel excited in the morning, tired by noon, anxious in the afternoon, and relieved in the evening when you return home. Feelings come and go like waves on the ocean. No feeling stays forever. Can feelings truly be me? Perceptions are also always changing. Perceptions are how we see and interpret the world. But they shift with our experiences. Something you once disliked may become something you cherish. The way you view a situation today may be different from how you see it tomorrow. Mental formations are our habits, reactions, intentions, and tendencies. You may have loved certain things in the past that no longer matter now. You may have been quick to anger before, but have learned to respond calmly through practice. Mental formations change with conditions and time. Consciousness is the continuous flow of awareness, but it also changes depending on what you encounter. When you listen to calming music, your mind feels at peace. When you hear harsh words, your mind may feel disturbed. Consciousness, too, is not fixed or permanent. The Buddha taught, if body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness were self, they would not lead to suffering. But because they change, when we cling to them, We suffer when they do not go our way or match our desires. When the body is ill, we suffer because we think, I am sick. When sadness arises, we think, I am sad. When negative thoughts come, we think, I am a bad person. But in reality, these are simply body changes, feelings passing, and thoughts arising and dissolving. Behind all these changes, there is a quiet space where you can sit, breathe gently, and smile at the miracle of life. When you observe, you will see you are not your feelings, not your thoughts, not merely your body. You are more spacious than you think. Modern neuroscience also shows that the brain is constantly changing based on what we think, do, and experience. The mind is not a rigid thing, but a flexible process that scientists call neuroplasticity, constantly shifting and renewing itself each day. The thoughts, emotions, and reactions you call me are simply processes happening within you. The idea of self is just a temporary label placed on these processes, like putting a name on a river that is constantly flowing and never the same. When you understand the 5 aggregates, you will see that self is just a temporary gathering of changing elements, nothing that needs to be held too tightly, nothing that needs to be feared or protected. Letting go of self is not a loss but a doorway to freedom. You do not need to force yourself to become non-self. Instead, you can begin by observing your body, feelings, and thoughts, breathing softly and smiling as you realize that life continues beautifully without needing to grasp onto a fixed identity. In each breath and each step, you are already whole, already peaceful, already free. When you see this clearly, you will understand that letting go of the self is not about disappearing. It is about opening the door to love, peace, and living deeply in every moment. Part 3. Non-self is not nihilism, but freedom and love. When people hear about non-self, many feel afraid, thinking it means they must disappear or live without feelings, love, or purpose. But non-self does not mean nihilism or losing the value of life. Non-self simply means letting go of the rigid me we keep trying to protect. Non-self does not mean you stop loving, dreaming, or wanting to contribute to the world. It means you no longer cling to a fixed identity. Letting go of the idea of I allows you to live more fully, to touch each moment with presence, and to experience true freedom. When you no longer hold tightly to the image of I must always be right, loved, or admired, you will feel lighter. You stop fearing the opinions of others, stop reacting with anger when criticized, and stop feeling jealous when others succeed. Your heart begins to breathe again. Non-self helps you release feelings of inferiority and self-doubt. You stop comparing yourself to others, stop tormenting yourself over mistakes, and stop fearing the loss of your image in the eyes of others. You begin to feel a quiet ease within, moment by moment. When you are no longer bound by the need to protect self, you begin to live more deeply. You notice your breath, hear the birds, feel the wind, and find joy in helping others without needing recognition or praise. Life becomes richer and more immediate. You begin to truly appreciate life because you no longer live to prove yourself. You live to be fully present. Each moment becomes precious because you are no longer caught in worries about status, opinions, or maintaining a perfect image for others to see. Think about a time you argued just to protect your rightness. How did you feel afterward? Drained? Hurt? Or regretful? Non-self helps you see you do not need to protect a fixed self-image. You can choose silence, deep listening, a gentle smile, and let things go. Non-self helps you stop fearing failure or judgment. You see that failure is simply an experience, not a definition of who you are. Criticism is just someone's opinion, not a truth about your worth. You learn to stand steady in your own quiet understanding. You begin to live with greater freedom and happiness. No longer pressured to be someone in order to be loved, you stop struggling to prove your worth. You no longer define yourself by success or external approval. You begin to walk lightly in the world. Non-self does not take away your capacity to love. Instead, it purifies your love. When there is no me and mine, you can love without demanding others to love you back in a certain way or to meet your expectations. You learn to love without conditions. You look at others with deep understanding because you see that everyone seeks happiness and carries their own suffering, just like you. This recognition allows your love to expand and your compassion to deepen. Seeing others as fellow travelers on the path, you can love without possessing, help without expecting returns, and listen without judging. You understand that everyone is growing, learning, and carrying wounds, and you stop expecting them to be perfect or to match your ideals. The Buddha taught, letting go is not losing, but gaining peace. When you let go of your attachment to self, you do not lose yourself. You discover a deep well of peace within, a peace that cannot be taken away by changing circumstances or opinions. Letting go of self is not abandoning life. It is beginning to truly live. You no longer live to defend yourself, but to love, to be present, to share, and to enjoy each moment with gratitude and awareness. Life becomes a path of awakening, not a battle. You do not need to disappear to realize non-self. You only need to live more lightly, observe more deeply, smile more often, and stop forcing yourself to prove who you are. You can let go gradually, allowing yourself to taste freedom in each day. And one day, you will realize that non-self is not about losing yourself, but returning to yourself free, turning to the life that is breathing within you, stepping with you, and loving through you, steadily, freely, and with deep peace. Part 4. Meditation and practicing non-self in daily life. Understanding non-self is not about becoming a scholar. It is about living with less heaviness each day. Non-self is not a lofty concept. It is a way to feel less hurt when criticized, less angry when misunderstood, and less afraid when you fail or lose something. You can begin by sitting quietly for 5 minutes each morning, placing your hand on your chest, breathing in, breathing out, simply knowing, breathing in, breathing out. In that moment, you do not need to become anyone. You do not need to be better or more successful. Just breathe. When you are washing dishes, sweeping the floor, or folding clothes, you can pause for a moment, smile, and say softly, "This tiredness is not me. This irritation is not me." Then you continue your work with a lighter heart, without blaming yourself for being tired or frustrated. At work, remember that your job does not define your worth. Success does not make you more lovable. Failure does not make you worthless. You are simply learning, experiencing, and living, not proving your value to anyone. You can work diligently, but without clinging to identity. During a meeting, someone may say something harsh, and you feel your face heat up, your heart beat faster, wanting to defend yourself immediately. Try to take a deep breath, exhale slowly, and listen fully before responding. Sometimes, silence is the most peaceful and wise response. At home, notice when you get angry. It may be just a careless word from a loved one, but because you want to be right or respected, you react. Next time, when anger rises, take a sip of water or walk outside for a few moments before returning to the conversation. While walking, you can practice mindful steps, silently saying "in" when lifting your foot and "out" when placing it down. Each step is a chance to return to the present moment, not worrying about me tomorrow or regretting the me of yesterday for mistakes made. You might take one evening a week to turn off your phone for 1 or 2 hours, sitting quietly, making a cup of tea, listening to the birds, hearing the fan hum, watching the sunlight on your window, you will see that life does not need to be complicated to feel peaceful. You can practice non-self in love by helping others simply for the joy of giving, without expecting gratitude or recognition. When you love someone, love without demanding them to love you back in a certain way, or to match the image you have created in your mind. Understanding non-self also helps you stop blaming yourself when you feel sad or tired. You do not need to say, "I am bad because I am angry," or "I am weak because I am sad." You can softly say, "Hello, sadness, I see you are here. Feelings are like clouds. They will pass." Science shows that practicing mindfulness and meditation reduces stress, improves sleep, increases focus, and develops emotional intelligence. It helps you live with more depth and awareness, speak with kindness, think carefully, and act with mindfulness rather than impulsive reactions. You will find your heart becoming softer, no longer rigid from needing to protect the self. Life will feel lighter, with less pressure to prove yourself, less fear of change, and less anxiety when things do not go as planned. You can embrace life as it is, with gratitude. Meditation is not about escaping life. It is about living deeply within it, with understanding, peace, and love. You do not need to disappear to realize non-self. You only need to walk without clinging, breathe without grasping, and live with a free and gentle heart. Then, one day, you will realize, letting go of the self does not make you lose anything. It simply makes you lighter, freer, and happier in each moment of this precious life. As you reach the end of this journey, you may realize that non-self does not mean losing yourself. It does not mean becoming cold or detached, nor does it mean abandoning your responsibilities or stepping away from life. Non-self simply means letting go of the heavy burden of protecting a fragile self you have been carrying for so long. For years, you may have worried about what others think of you, feared that failure would make you worthless, or felt anxious about losing the image of yourself you worked so hard to build. You may have felt hurt when misunderstood, angry when trying to prove your point, or sad when comparing yourself to others. But when you stop holding tightly to the idea of, "I must be like this, I must succeed, I must be loved," you will see that life becomes lighter, more spacious, and freer. You no longer need to strain to prove your worth, to fight to be right, or to chase after praise to feel complete. When you loosen your grip, peace comes naturally. You will see that the truly precious things remain: your breath, your smile, the morning sunlight, a warm cup of tea, the presence of someone you love, and the miracle of life breathing within you right now. Non-self does not make you cold. It allows you to love more deeply, to understand others with greater compassion, because you are no longer separated by the walls of self. You can listen without judgment, help without seeking recognition, and love without needing to possess. Non-self does not take away your joy. It teaches you to live deeply with the simple joys of the present moment. Non-self does not take away your dreams. It teaches you not to cling to them, so that if they do not come true, you can still smile and continue, light and patient. Tonight, before you go to bed, I invite you to sit quietly for a few minutes, breathing gently, placing your hand on your heart, smiling softly, and saying to yourself, "I do not need to struggle to become someone." You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be present. You do not need to become someone else. You only need to return home to yourself, peacefully and freely. You can practice non-self by breathing with gratitude, walking mindfully, eating a meal with presence, and loving someone with an open heart. You do not need to change everything at once. By beginning with small moments, you will feel lightness gradually entering your daily life. If this sharing has helped you breathe more lightly, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to TT-Buddhism. so we may continue to walk together on the path of mindfulness, learning to live with freedom, peace, and love each day. Thank you for staying with us until the end of today's journey. May you walk lightly, breathe peacefully, and smile as you realize letting go is true freedom. You do not lose yourself when you let go. You simply become steadier, calmer, more loving, and more at ease with life like a breath, like a cloud drifting gently across the vast blue sky.